Representative Rosa DeLauro shreds Hegseth, and the room feels it before he even finishes his first sentence. It's the kind of moment that grabs you by the collar in the first few seconds, because you can tell instantly this isn't going to be a polite exchange or a routine budget hearing. This is a takedown. DeLauro walks in with binders full of data, numbers memorized, deadlines carved into memory, and a tone sharper than steel. And across from her sits a Pentagon chief claiming everything is on track, while offering none of the receipts. That tension alone could lock any viewer in for the first minute. But what happens next?
You've seen the Signalgate report that the defense IG sent over?
I haven't. I'm going to be seeing it a little bit later this morning.
Do you get the sense that there's any appetite among your Republican colleagues for any sort of extension of the Affordable Care Act tax credits in the next couple weeks?
There's definitely an appetite on the part of my Republican colleagues because they're hearing from their constituents who are deeply upset about the skyrocketing premiums. They're being hit by this sticker shock. And I'm hearing from a lot of Republican colleagues that what they need is a green light from the White House to go forward with a proposal that is gaining real traction among the American people who want affordable health care insurance.
You said yesterday you'd like to see Admiral Bradley come to the Armed Services Committee sometime next week. Has there been any development on that?
There'll be some private meetings, evidently, with Admiral Bradley. What we need now really is subpoenas for all of the records, including the videos, transcripts of oral communications, the executive order that Hegseth issued. I'm very fearful we're going to see loss of records, possibly destruction of documents, because so much is at stake in terms of criminal culpability here. And I want to see this investigation begin intensely and immediately. Hegseth has to be held responsible for issuing the order that led to not only the killing of these two survivors of the shipwreck against international law and possibly a war crime, but also the entire set of strikes that has destroyed 23 or more of these boats and killed more than 80 people.
Senator Kane said that he feels that Pete Hegseth kind of threw Admiral Bradley under the bus. Do you feel the same way?
Well, Pete Hegseth says he has Admiral Bradley's back. He has Bradley's back just enough to push him under the bus, which is what they are doing in effect. When he says there's a fog of war, what he's really seeking to do is create a fog of mind that enables him to shift the blame, pass the buck, and push Admiral Bradley and others under the bus. We cannot allow a political leader to make a career professional military man a fall guy here. And Pete Hegseth should have the courage to step forward and say, it's my responsibility, I'm going to own it.
Senator, what do you make of the outcome of the meeting between Witkoff and Putin in Moscow?
I think that what we're going to see is more of the same. Putin stalling and stonewalling, trying to gain time so he can conquer more territory and weaken Ukraine through the aerial reign of terror that he has imposed. And what we need now is peace through strength, not granting Vladimir Putin a Christmas wish list. Right now, the two elves over there, Witkoff and Kushner, are taking Putin's wish list for Santa Claus. And what we really need is someone to stand up to Putin and say, we're going to provide the arms necessary for Ukraine to defend itself successfully. Peace through strength is the only strategy that works. Appeasement is futile. And my worry is that Kushner and Witkoff are there on a fool's errand that is designed simply to give Putin more time to stonewall us.
And has there been any movement on efforts to bring up a Russian sanctions bill?
I think we are ready to go with a Russian sanctions bill as soon as We know what the outcome is in Moscow and Kyiv right now. Until the talks are in some way finished there, as I hope there will be, because allowing them to go on indefinitely simply gives Putin more time to stonewall us.
Senator, the House is trying to designate the Muslim Brotherhood today into a foreign terrorist organization. What do you think about that?
I think the Muslim Brotherhood is potentially a danger to us. We ought to recognize it and act accordingly. Thank you.
It turns into one of the clearest examples of congressional accountability we've seen in years. She starts by pressing him on submarine production, not abstract ideas, not strategic fluff, but the cold hard numbers the Pentagon should know by heart. He says the programs are critical. He says the investments are robust. He throws out percentages like confetti. But the moment she asks for the actual status of production, silence dressed up as confidence. He calls it a gap that's closing, but he can't say how, when, or according to what data. And this is where viewers lean in, because they can feel what Deloro feels. If you're asking for billions, you better show the math. And the math is exactly what's missing. She doesn't move on. She doesn't accept vague lines. She reminds him that submarines aren't just another project. They're the foundation of U.S. undersea dominance, one of the last domains where the country still holds a clear advantage. If the Pentagon doesn't know where production stands, then who does? Her tone isn't dramatic. It's surgical. She wants to know whether the current production rate can close the widening gap between the fleet the nation has and the fleet it needs. And when she asks for evidence, for documentation, for any form of proof, he says they believe the gap is closing. Not know, believe. But that wasn't the whole story, because then she drops the number everyone in the defense world has been whispering about. $3.1 billion quietly shifted out of the 2026 budget. That money was supposed to stabilize the industrial base, keep shipyards staffed, keep parts flowing, keep production lines warm. Instead, it's being stretched across 2027 and 2028, a move that shipbuilders say creates massive short-term instability. Families rely on this funding. Towns rely on it. Regional economies depend on predictable contracts. And suddenly the funding disappears, replaced with assurances that everything is fine, that he insists there's no financial hole. She counters by pointing out the hole is right there, in the missing billions, in the reshuffled budgets, in the uncertainty radiating across the shipbuilding community. And the best part? She doesn't shout. She doesn't posture. She simply demands specifics he cannot provide. And what happened next would shock everyone watching. She asks him directly whether he has spoken with Electric Boat or Huntington Ingalls, the two shipyards most affected by the shifting budgets. These aren't obscure facilities. They're pillars of American defense manufacturing. Tens of thousands of workers depend on the stability of submarine production. The answer should have been simple. Instead, he delivers a rehearsed generality. They talk almost every day. But when she asks for details, the kind Congress needs to oversee spending, he has none to offer. So she pushes again. If you're talking every day, where's the plan? Where are the updated projections? Where is the workforce analysis? Where are the revised timelines? Because Congress, she reminds him, has supported the submarine industrial base massively. They've provided flexibility, billions in emergency funding, and every tool the Pentagon said it needed. And yet, the Pentagon still can't show a clear path toward meeting production goals. But Deloro wasn't done. She points out a detail that's damning on its own. Congress provided $5.7 billion for additional Virginia-class submarines, with an explicit requirement that contracts be signed by February 2025. The Pentagon missed that deadline by months, not signing until April 30th. And she wants to know why, not in theory, not in diplomatic generalities, but in hard, documented explanations. He offers thanks for the funding. She cuts him off. Thanks are meaningless without a plan. He tries to pivot to problems inherited from a prior administration. She stops him instantly. She doesn't want excuses. She wants accountability. Because the truth is this: production delays don't care whose fault they used to be. A submarine delivered late is late no matter who is in office. A workforce shortfall doesn't fix itself with blame. The industrial base doesn't stabilize because someone mentioned percentages. Deloro wants the plan now, in writing, with numbers, timelines, and financials, Because without that, no one can even verify whether the Pentagon's story adds up. But that wasn't the final blow. Her closing challenge hits at the heart of government credibility. If the Pentagon can't show what it's doing with billions of taxpayer dollars, then Congress may reconsider what the Pentagon gets going forward. That's not drama. That's oversight. That's the power of the purse being used exactly the way the Constitution intended. And this is where the hearing transforms from a tense exchange into a bigger warning for the entire national security establishment. DeLauro is speaking for more than herself. She's reflecting what millions across the country feel. A growing distrust of agencies that ask for huge budgets while offering fewer real answers. A feeling that critical institutions have become too comfortable offering talking points instead of transparency. And a recognition that national security isn't just about military hardware. It's about trust, reliability, and competence. Submarines aren't something you can fall behind on. They're stealth platforms that shape global strategy. They deter threats without firing a shot. They keep adversaries guessing. And if production falls behind, if budgets slip, if timelines drift, then deterrence weakens long before the world realizes it. That's why DeLauro went so hard. She wasn't grandstanding. She wasn't playing politics. She was doing the one thing elected officials are supposed to do. Demand proof when billions are on the line. Demand clarity when the country's safety is at stake. Demand honesty from those who wield enormous power behind closed doors. Her message could not have been clearer. Show us the real numbers, or don't expect the money. And here's what makes the moment resonate even more. She wasn't attacking the military. She was defending it. The people building submarines need stability, not shifting budgets. The sailors who will someday deploy on these vessels need assurance, not ambiguity. The country needs readiness, not rhetoric. This hearing wasn't just a clash of personalities. It was a stress test for accountability. And the Pentagon failed that test in real time. If leaders expect trust, they have to earn it. With data, with transparency, with concrete plans, not polished lines. Because trust in government isn't lost in dramatic scandals. It erodes slowly, moment by moment, hearing by hearing. Each time an official refuses to answer a simple question about where billions of dollars are going. Rosa DeLauro wasn't willing to let that slide. And whether you agree with her or not, moments like this are vital. They remind us that oversight still exists, that Congress still has the power and the duty to demand clarity, and that accountability isn't optional in a functioning democracy. If you found this breakdown valuable and want more deep dives into moments where truth and power collide, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on notifications. It helps the channel reach more people who care about transparency and real oversight. Let's keep the conversation going and keep the pressure on for honest answers.